This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Hockey parents are frustrated with the community center's stick handling of a decision to cancel their kids' ice times. And they're not the only ones being swept aside. Instead of being on the ice, kids from multiple sports are all being benched, all for a movie. A curling film production set to shoot next month in Southdale. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, teams are hurrying hard to find ice time elsewhere.
Some hockey games like this one are going to be bumped next month at Southdale Community Centre for the filming of a curling movie.
I don't know how people are going to have ice for these kids to practice.
Parents like Laura McMillan are now scrambling to find new ice times. She manages her son's St. Boniface Seals under-15 team, which plays and practices at Southdale's two arenas. Hockey Winnipeg says over a 3-week period, its teams will lose more than 85 hours of previously booked ice time during the peak of the season, with more than 60 teams affected.
Filming a movie there is exciting. And I think that there's probably just a few ways that could have been done and approach that could have been a much more positive reception.
Southdale Community Centre has so far not commented. It's not only hockey, figure skating and ringette teams will also be affected. Levon Kearney with the Bonnie Vitel Ringette Association says 17 of its teams are losing a total of 16 ice rentals.
Decisions like this have a trickle-down effect. It impacts players' development and growth. We have to take ice from other rinks and work on rescheduling all of that.
Louise Dale says it's exciting to have a film production at the community center. She says the seniors programming she takes part in will be shut down for 2 weeks while it's being shot.
For the exercise classes, we'll have to do exercises at home. Hopefully we'll remember to do exercises.
Hockey Winnipeg says the film production here means games will have to be moved to other facilities, but it could come at the expense of practices and other programs. It also means parents and kids may have to travel farther, and some games may have to be moved to rinks that aren't ideal for competitive play.
We'll be looking to move to other rinks. Maybe we'll have to be driving as far as out to Selkirk, Stonewall, anywhere else to play.
McMillan would like to see the film rescheduled or shot overnight to minimize the impact on user groups. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Winnipeg woman says she's been left traumatized after she was attacked by dogs. It happened on Tuesday while she was walking her own dog in North Kildonan. She says 3 of them began circling around them and then attacked. And as CBC's Felicia Adam reports, the woman says it's not the first time.
Like any other evening, Olivia Watson was walking her dog Sadie here along McLeod Avenue. But on Tuesday, she says they were attacked by 3 dogs who she believes escaped their backyard. While Watson wasn't hurt, Sadie is now recovering from multiple bite wounds.
It was awful because I love my dog. You know, you felt helpless in that situation.
Watson remembers screaming for help when someone driving by stopped and put 2 of the dogs into their car. The dog's owner tried to get control of the 3rd dog that was doing the biting.
She has a wound there, a bite mark.
Sadie needed medical attention and staples for her wounds.
It was really traumatic and scary, and I just was hoping that we weren't going to die because I didn't know. I mean, if they wanted to take us down, they could.
After posting to social media warning others about the attack, she heard from people in the neighborhood that this wasn't the first time.
This is a reoccurring issue with those dogs, that they're somehow getting out of their yard. It's not secure, and they've come at other people and animals.
We were unable to reach the owner of the 3 dogs, but one side of their backyard is fenced only with plastic. Winnipeg veterinarian Dr. Jonas Watson says that's unacceptable.
If you own a dog that may be a threat to other animals, it's important that you take the steps to keep that animal from harming other animals and people.
So far this year, Animal Services handed out 56 tickets to people who failed to prevent their dog from hurting a person or animal. In the city's responsible pet ownership bylaw, some dogs can be designated as dangerous if they're likely to cause harm. Those dogs would have to be kept indoors or securely outside. If they leave home, they'd need to wear a muzzle and be restrained by a shorter leash.
There may be dogs that have not been found by the City of Winnipeg that cause problems, where the owners haven't been reprimanded and haven't had any requirements put upon them. Those would be the dogs that are of greater concern.
He says the most important thing people can do is report dangerous dogs. Come here. And that's exactly what Olivia Watson is doing while Sadie recovers. The city says the attack is under investigation. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Winnipeg man accused in several high-profile arsons is now facing more charges. Police say 35-year-old Jesse Wheatland is now charged in connection to a suspicious fire on Disraeli in August and 2 others on Cordon and Nairn in November. Police say they seized evidence from a residence on St. Mary's Road and a downtown storage locker. Wheatland is already in custody after being charged with a string of arsons at several restaurants and 2 MLA's constituency offices. A woman who abused and killed her daughter in one of Manitoba's most notorious crimes has been granted more temporary escorted absences from prison. Samantha Kematch and her then-boyfriend Carl McKay were convicted in 2008 of first-degree murder in the death of her 5-year-old daughter, Phoenix Sinclair. They were sentenced to life in prison with no parole eligibility for 25 years. The Parole Board of Canada says it's allowing Kematch short visits with some relatives and visits to an undisclosed community to go to a mall and bank. She previously was allowed 2 family visits and 2 visits with elders. Manitoba Hydro unveiled part of its plan to keep the lights on and the heat going during future winters. As CBC's Bartley Keevis reports, the Crown Corporation is relying in energy savings as much as new sources of power.
Hydro has warned for years about an energy crunch in Manitoba. Today it published part of its plan to make 1,800 more megawatts of electricity available by 2035. Part of this relies on previously announced plans to build new gas-burning power plants in Brandon and new wind farms led by Indigenous businesses. Hydro is also relying on getting Manitobans to use less power.
It's all about really shaving the peak load, which allows you to meet energy demands for more customers without having to add a whole pile of new capacity.
One plan calls for demand pricing, which would allow consumers to opt in to lower rates if they agree to use less power during peak periods.
We're going to go about that in a way that will ensure that the only direction energy prices can go is down.
But critics say the province isn't investing enough in renewable energy. The plan only calls for 5 megawatts of battery storage by 2035.
In Ontario, they're scaling up to thousands of megawatts of battery energy storage in the next 3 years by 2028. And so the idea that Manitoba couldn't, is only considering 5 megawatts in the next 10 years it's astounding.
Manitoba Hydro intends to unveil a more detailed plan to beef up Manitoba's generating capacity early in the new year. Bartley Keevis, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, if you've been thinking about making repairs or updating your security system, the province says now is the time for businesses to do that. Everything from security and doorbell cams and window protection to businesses that need to fix broken locks or remove graffiti. Those can all be covered under the newly launched Business Security Rebate Program. You can apply for up to $2,500 per location to help offset those costs, and it's for businesses with 75 or fewer employees per location. Restaurants Canada says the program will make businesses safer for customers.
When you talk to restaurants, what they'll also tell you is the most important thing for them is that they want their staff to be safe. And what this does is this helps keep people who are working in restaurants safer. Whether it's the teenager working at the counter, whether it's the woman who's closing the bar at the end of the night, this is about safety.
The province has set aside $10 million for the program. Rebates will be provided on a first-come, first-served basis. All right, let's bring in weather specialist Riley Lachuk. And Riley, I can see that band of blue moving behind you. Is there more snow on the way?
Yeah, another quick push through the evening tonight, Brittany, across southern and central Manitoba. Again, this is another quick 2 to 4 centimeters, the back end of this last clipper system to move through. But it's what's happening further west. I want to draw your attention to high pressure, which means some very cold Arctic air, and to give you a sense at some of the temperatures that are being recorded further north from us. Whitehorse this morning at -42, first thing this morning, -50 with the wind chill. Not quite that cold here in Manitoba as we get into the weekend, but certainly we're getting a taste of winter as we get through the next couple of days here. So here's that next band of snow that pushes into the province as we get into the evening. Tonight, a bit of a breezy one, so watch for some blowing snow on highways. Temperatures not as warm as yesterday, but still close to seasonal. -11 in Winnipeg this afternoon. Brandon at -10 through the day, dropping to -15 to -18 through the overnight hours as we see that snow pushing through. A cold front sweeps through after that, and our temperatures will be falling as we get through the day. So -19 in the morning. Don't dress for that, but dress for something closer to -21 with wind chill into the -30s, Brittany, as we get into the afternoon. I'll have more on that when I come back.
All right, thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
A Manitoba First Nation is exploring legal options after a chunk of its land was sold to a property developer. More on that ahead. The chief of Manitoba's most populous First Nation says his band is exploring legal options. It comes after its real estate trust sold most of a former golf course near Winnipeg to a property developer who used to advise the band. Bartley Peguis reports.
Peguis First Nation Real Estate Trust bought the former Meadows Golf Course in East St. Paul in 2021 using $10 million of money Peguis First Nation received as reparation for broken treaty promises. The real estate trust sold most of this land in 2024 to Winnipeg developer Andrew Marquis, who used to advise the band. After CBC News reported the transaction, Peguis Chief Stan Bird took to Facebook.
We are currently reviewing our legal options around this sale.
Bird declined an interview. He said in his Facebook address he's concerned with the purchase and sale of the Meadows land. Bird said band members should have had a chance to vote on the transfer of $10 million from the Peguis Treaty Land Entitlement Trust, that's money the federal government paid Peguis to settle its historic land debt, to the Peguis Real Estate Trust, which bought the Meadows land.
This did not happen, and it is in breach of the Treaty Land Entitlement Trust.
The former chair of the Peguis First Nation Real Estate Trust said he wasn't aware there had to be a vote. He blames Bird for making it difficult to develop the Meadows land.
It was a fight right from the very beginning when he got in, and it's still a fight today.
The Peguis First Nation Real Estate Trust also took out a loan from a company controlled by Andrew Marquis's wife. This happened when Glenn Hudson served as chief of Peguis First Nation. Stan Bird blames Hudson for the Meadows deal.
This unusual transaction is only the latest in a series of bad deals that were spearheaded by former Chief Glenn Hudson.
One of those deals is a series of high-interest loans Peguis took out with Bridging Finance, a now-insolvent lender that's suing Peguis for $172 million. Marquis's lawyer, Kevin Toyne, has said there was nothing unusual about the Meadows transaction. Toyne said Marquis will defend himself against any unfounded allegations from Stan Bird. CBC News also asked Glenn Hudson to respond to Bird's contention that the Meadows is the latest in a series of bad projects. Hudson turned the tables on Bird and his counsel.
If they don't have that vision and they don't have that foresight and the knowledge to be able to move a deal forward, then it will be a bad deal.
Stan Bird said the real estate trust failed to hand over 3 audited financial statements to the band. 2 overdue audits were eventually posted, but Greg Stevenson said a third is still with the accounting firm because the trust couldn't afford to pay for that audit. Bartley Peguis, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A new harm reduction van is preparing to bring life-saving support directly to the streets. It will soon be rolling around the province's second largest city. CBC's Chelsea Kemp reports from Brandon.
Or else a couple kinds of salts, yeah.
Testing meth has become part of everyday life for Brandon's cat, Salmon. She checks because she's lost many friends to toxic drug overdoses.
I've never been able to finish grieving on one person before we lose another one.
That's why Southern Chiefs organization is bringing a mobile harm reduction van that can travel anywhere in the city. Grand Chief Jerry Daniels says they'll draw on their mobile crisis team's experience working in 32 First Nations. He says it'll help people facing challenges like addictions, a housing crunch, and mental health needs.
We need to cut off the the flow of people falling within those areas, within those environments. And so strengthening our children and arming them with tools.
The pilot project is funded by Health Canada with money secured by the City of Brandon. The city's Shannon Saltarelli says it'll help fill gaps for overtaxed agencies.
No longer will this be something that's sort of off the side of someone's desk or doing it when able or maybe seasonally, but a dedicated team.
Since 2021, more than 400 Manitobans have died each year from toxic drug overdoses. Solange Machado says that shows more people need access to harm reduction services. She thinks the van will help save lives by reaching out to places like encampments.
Being able to have a van that can meet people where they're at rather than people having to go to offices will definitely open up access for a lot of people.
Calix Cross helps hand out harm reduction kits. She thinks the van is a great idea because it'll go where people are and can check in to make sure they're staying safe.
People die in winter here without drugs being a part of their lives, and people need access to things that they don't have to walk, And it might get to them faster than, I've had to jump on my bike and go flying halfway across the city and you never know if you're going to make it or not.
The van is expected to hit the streets in the new year and run until October. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Brandon.
Mark Carney's Liberal Party has gained another member today. Ontario Conservative MP Michael Ma announced he would be joining the Liberals. It comes just as Parliament wrapped today for a 6-week winter break.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Several bills are still working their way through the House. Only 4 passed this section. Among those yet to be passed, the Budget Implementation Bill. It passed second reading this week and will head to committee for study in the new year. Ma's move to cross the floor means the Liberals are just 1 member away from a majority. And Riley's back in now. Riley, I feel like as our weather specialist, you got to take the wins with the losses.
Yes.
And when it hits winter time,
Yeah.
you're not always as loved as you should be.
No. We are on the cusp, Brittany, of some very cold winter air.
Yes.
Good news, though, for the outdoor rinks. I know a lot of
That's
folks
true.
itching to get out and put the skates on.
Yeah.
So this will help get that ice winter ready for us. And
It's good for the sports lovers.
yeah, bundle up. I'm going to start with temperatures across the country right now. And these are daytime highs from today. Just to give you a sense, at where we're sitting, you can kind of see where the jet stream sits across the country right now with some warmer air on the west coast. 10 degrees in Vancouver, or plus 10, minus 10 in Calgary, and some much, much cooler air to the north. And we're looking at that slipping south as we get into the day on Friday. Here are some falling temperatures across the province. -8 in Regina, -6 in Toronto, which is also below seasonal for parts of southern Ontario into Quebec. So that just gives you a sense at where we're sitting right now. So here's that blast of cold Arctic air as we get into the night tonight and high pressure starts to set in. That will start to sink a little bit further south, and we're looking at some of our coldest air of the season so far as we get through the weekend here overnight into Saturday morning before we start to see this lifting a bit of a ridge starting to build back in as we get into Sunday, Monday. So that will warm temperatures up a bit, but will also allow things to get a bit more unstable, particularly as we get toward the middle of next week with another system that I've got my eyes on here. So weak area of low pressure pushing across the province along this cold front, maybe a couple of centimeters, 2 to 4 max as we get through the evening hours into the overnight period tonight. It's another quick mover. So by the morning, we're back into a mainly sunny sky, but winds that will be a bit on the gusty side, which I'll talk about in just a moment here. So keep that in mind. Into the morning, we could be into some blowing snow as we get this high pressure working into Saturday. That really helps to clear skies out as we get through the weekend. Maybe a bit of extra cloud cover into Sunday, but by and large, we are looking at the temperatures, I think, being the story as we get into the weekend here as things drop much, much cooler than seasonal. As that system pushes through, we are looking at winds picking up a bit, 20 gusting to 40 pretty generally across the south. Could see some gusts, particularly in Westman, up to 50 plus, and that could mean some blowing snow on highways through the overnight hours into the early morning. Just keep that in mind. Maybe give yourself just a bit of extra time because it doesn't take a lot of snow and a little bit of wind to kick up and really reduce visibility on you as we get onto the open highways there. So first thing in the morning, temperatures -24s, -25s in the west. Don't dress for -19 in Gimli or -20 in Winnipeg. That temperature will be falling as we get through the day. So dress more like -21 as we get through the day on Friday. Cold for the weekend, -19, -15, Brittany, and we start to warm up by midweek.
I'm going to look to Tuesday.
Yes, I know.
Thanks, Riley. Well, with that ice starting to form, it is a sure sign of winter. More to come straight ahead.
You're familiar with how these work, right? As of now, the agency in charge of delivering weather alerts in Canada has moved to a similar color-coded system in order to help you better understand how severe weather could impact your life.
Environment and Climate Change Canada has been reporting weather watches and warnings the same way for decades, and it looks something like this. With the change, weather watches and warnings will instead look more like this. Just like the traffic lights, the different colors are meant to tell you different things. In this case, the severity of the alert and the risk involved. Yellow being the least severe, meaning you should prepare for significant weather impacts that could cause some damage, like a thunderstorm. In the past, Environment Canada says most weather alerts would have fallen into this category. Orange is meant to indicate that you should protect yourself from dangerous weather like a winter storm because widespread damage is predicted. And red is the most serious of the alert colors, meaning that possibly life-threatening weather like a tornado could be in store.
Alert titles, which used to look like this, displaying just the hazard and alert type, will instead be more detailed like this.
In the new version, not only are the hazard and alert types shown, but also the color level.
Environment Canada hopes these changes will give you the ability to make better decisions in order to keep yourself safe.
Floodwaters are wreaking havoc in British Columbia's Fraser Valley, with evacuation orders now including hundreds of properties. Officials have ordered hundreds of residents in Abbotsford to evacuate. The CBC's Jessica Chung has more.
It only took around half an hour for this road to be completely engulfed in these floodwaters. We were standing right on the road. It was dry. We saw grass on either side. And just within minutes, you could see that water streaming in. And there was so much debris in the water, and that really gave you a sense of how fast that water was moving. You saw wheelbarrows and boxes, tires just moving so quickly through this water. And you really got a sense of how powerful these floodwaters are and really how fast that they were moving. And of course, this is the aftermath of just a deluge of rain that fell within the last 24 hours. Environment Canada says 140 millimeters fell, up to 140 millimeters fell in some parts of the Fraser Valley. That's a lot of rain in a short amount of time. A local state of emergency is still in effect here in Abbotsford. The city just issued new evacuation orders on 82 properties. That brings the total number of evacuation orders to around 450. Hundreds of more of properties are under an evacuation alert. And the city has set up a reception center at the Abbotsford Recreation Center for anybody that needs it. And people here are being advised to, yes, pack that go bag, especially if you are under an evacuation alert, just so that you can leave quickly if needed.
I know it was a sleepless night for many people. The last 48 hours have been particularly challenging for families, farmers, and communities affected in areas affected by flooding. And the province is making every effort to support communities in responding to those floods.
We heard from a lot of people who came out, obviously, from their homes, from their businesses, a lot of farmers, especially actually when we were on that washed out road, there were a lot of residents there. We spoke with one who said that he was going overnight to knock on his neighbor's door to make sure that they knew what was going on, to make sure that they were ready to get out if needed. But he did suspect that a lot of them didn't want to leave, that a lot of people are staying in their homes. Jessica Chung, CBC News, Abbotsford.
Meantime, flooding that could reach historic levels has the state of Washington under a state of emergency. That declaration came late Wednesday following days of unrelenting rain. The governor says to expect flooding that is catastrophic. Already, rivers have burst their banks, mudslides have blocked highways, and people have had to be rescued. One area recorded 150 millimeters of rain in 24 hours. The danger of flooding is most severe along the Skagit River north of Seattle. A winter storm battering the Gaza Strip is compounding a humanitarian crisis in the territory. Torrential rains have drenched tent camps and flooded shelters. Refugees displaced by the conflict between Israel and Hamas are now going through more misery. Rafi Boudjikanian reports.
Neighborhoods filled with the tents of the displaced have flooded, and that's just the start. Local media reports 3 buildings have collapsed. A CBC freelance videographer went to assess the damage at one of them for himself. A resident told him that that building was already damaged by bombing, and the rainwater from Storm Byron finished the job.
وبعدنا كل الاولاد كل الاطفال السيارات النساء اللي كل حاجه بصير فيها خطر ابعدناها عن المنطقه كلها.
With Storm Byron ongoing, aid organizations say it's difficult to quantify the damage so far, but that 18,600 people have been displaced due to previous storms this season. UNICEF now trying to figure out what impact Byron is having on the ground.
I also went to a few tents and they are completely flooded. Those tents are definitely not equipped to resist the strong winds and the heavy rains. And I met with families and children, all their children. All the children I met are sick. The mattresses are completely damped. The children have wet clothes on them. It's not possible for them to change clothes because actually most of them have been displaced. And when you're displaced, you very often run with only what you have on your back. So it's a very, very concerning situation.
Part of the challenge for aid groups is replacing damaged material like tent poles and drain pipes, both subject to control at Gaza's checkpoints. Aid groups say that drinking water systems have been damaged by Storm Byron, compounding the malnutrition affecting the region. They say they're worried about children succumbing to hypothermia, and the Palestinian Health Authority says one has already died overnight due to that illness. Rafi Mujikani on CBC News, Jerusalem.
The U.S. issued new sanctions targeting Venezuela Thursday. It comes as the White House said it intends to seize the oil from a tanker it intercepted off the coast of Venezuela a day earlier. Tony Waterman has the latest.
The seized tanker, which is believed to be the skipper, was transporting about 2 million barrels of oil valued at north of $80 million. And the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt says that the U.S. intends to confiscate that oil, calling the ship a sanctioned vessel associated with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard.
The Department of Justice requested and was approved for a warrant to seize a vessel because it's a sanctioned shadow vessel known for carrying black market sanctioned oil to the IRGC, which you know is a sanctioned entity. So the president is committed to stopping the illegal flow of drugs into our country. He's also fully committed to effectuating this administration's sanction policy, and that's what you saw and the world saw take place yesterday.
Leavitt says the crew on board the vessel is now being questioned and evidence is being seized as part of a forfeiture procedure. Leavitt, though, wouldn't confirm or deny reports that the U.S. is preparing to intercept more vessels transporting Venezuelan oil. Caracas has called the seizure a barefaced robbery, an act of international piracy, saying that it's really aimed at stripping the country of its oil wealth. Oil is the main driver of the Venezuelan economy. And the revenues are spent on even very basic necessities like food and medicine. And there's already indications that other ships are going to be laying low in the aftermath of this seizure. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Machado, who has just received her Nobel Peace Prize, said she supported this action by the U.S. government. As the pressure on Maduro mounts, he has been trying to shore up support from some very big Venezuelan backers. And this includes a conversation he had with the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, in which he reportedly reassured Maduro of Moscow's support for his government. Maduro has also spoken to the leader of Belarus, which is raising the prospects that he could be starting to think about leaving Venezuela and seeking refuge abroad. Tony Waterman, CBC News, Washington.
People on Prince Edward Island are once again able to buy U.S. liquor, but only for a limited time. Just like Manitoba, the province has taken its remaining stock out of storage and is selling it off, with proceeds going to a good cause. Gwyneth Egan has the details.
American alcohol will start appearing on PEI liquor store shelves once again, but only until it runs out. The province is selling off all American booze after pulling it from the shelves back in February. It will still take time to take it all out of storage, but this will be the last call for American drinks on PEI for the foreseeable future.
We made a decision as a province to stand strong on that, so we'll just be selling off existing inventory. No new orders will be made for U.S. alcohol.
The profits from U.S. alcohol sales will go to local food banks. The province says it will track sales as they happen and make donations on a monthly basis. Government says it expects about $600,000 in profit from the sales, which would go right to stocking up at island food banks.
I think you want to see some good out of situations like this, and I think that it was a pretty obvious choice this time of year, especially. There's a focus on food banks and supporting our local food banks across the island. So it was a pretty easy decision to make to take all the net profits from the sales of U.S. alcohol and put it towards local food banks across PEI.
Here at the Oak Tree Liquor Store in Charlottetown, staff are ready to put out American alcohol again. But that doesn't mean local products will get less shelf space.
The U.S. product came off the shelves. The PEI LCC dedicated space to our local manufacturers. That space will still remain.
Don't expect all of the alcohol to be on shelves and available right away. Government is asking islanders to be patient as they take alcohol out of storage and get it onto shelves across the province. Gwyneth Egan, CBC News, Charlottetown.
People in the Flin Flon area who lost cabins and homes are still dealing with the aftermath of the wildfires. I'm Rosanna Hempel, and coming up, we'll bring you more from those deciding how to move forward.
This is Manitoba. And this is Manitoba on your smart TV, because CBC News is now streaming local. Get local headlines, weather, and community notices, plus newscasts and live programming on your favorite connected device, all for free. It's called the CBC News Manitoba streaming channel. See your community on your connected TV and mobile devices. CBC News Manitoba, your local news streaming channel, now available.
They lost homes, family cabins, heirlooms, treasures, and for many, their peace of mind. People near Flin Flon are still dealing with the aftermath of the wildfires and what comes next. They're facing decisions around insurance and how to best protect their properties. CBC's Rosanna Hempel has two couples' journeys.
It was kind of nice staying there because it was ours. It was familiar.
Debbie and Greg Ellingson lived in this garage for 2 months after the season's wildfires. Their home on Sally's Beach Road, southeast of Flin Flon, didn't survive, even though they watered the property for days before the evacuation.
Good God, I took a lot of pictures, Debbie.
These are some of the last pictures they took before fleeing one afternoon in late May. By the next day, it was gone.
It was overwhelming. It was disbelief. It was...
I told her from the beginning, I said, you know, we can go down that rabbit hole of despair, but we might never come out of it. So let's just try and stay positive.
The Ellingsons have moved into a neighbor's cabin for now, and they walk over often.
This is where the house was.
It's an empty lot filled with 3 generations of memories. They're deciding whether to move away or rebuild, depending on how their home insurance pays out. Meanwhile, their premium has jumped more than 50% since the wildfires.
My neighbor and I, Dan and I, we bought a fire pump probably, I'm thinking 5 or 6 years ago.
John Clark and his wife live on a different lake southeast of Flin Flon. Clark is president of his local cottage association. He says they're also revamping their emergency response plans and at home, the fire protection system.
So I've marked some trees that I may take down.
Cabin owners and homeowners like him have been busy cutting down nearby brush and trees to protect against future wildfires, although not everyone is able to make changes.
There's some cost involved if you can't do it yourself. This shed we purchased for our fire equipment.
Clark and his neighbor share a sprinkler system. A pump draws water from the lake and feeds it to roof sprinklers through a network of hoses.
And this just screws in here.
He says others are setting up their own systems too.
If we're not dealing with it every year, it will be something frequent.
The Ellingsons encourage others to be as prepared as possible as they navigate insurance and an uncertain retirement.
Every now and again, I tell my poor husband, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to stop. But you can't. You have to go forward. So
they're finding comfort in familiar places and new traditions.
We're going to put a Christmas tree out here.
To say they're not gone yet, they're still here. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, near Baker's Narrows, Manitoba.
Well, the sale is final. An Ontario judge has given permission to the Hudson's Bay Co. to sell its royal charter. Courts have approved the sale of the 355-year-old document to 2 of Canada's wealthiest families. The $18 million sale to the Thompson and Weston families meant the piece did not go up for auction. This was the final barrier that needed to be cleared. The families plan to donate the charter immediately and permanently to 4 groups: the Archives of Manitoba, the Manitoba Museum, the Canadian Museum of History in Gatineau, Quebec, and the Royal Ontario Museum. The Winnipeg Sea Bears have signed the best player in the league's history. Today, the club announced it signed 3-time Canadian Elite Basketball League Player of the Year, Xavier Moon. He signed for the 2026 season. The point guard helped lead his former team in Edmonton to back-to-back titles in 2020 and 2021. Moon says he's grateful for the chance to come back and play in the league after being away these last few years.
Just watching the growth of the league over the last couple of years, Obviously, I was doing the NBA thing. I was overseas in Russia last year. I ended up getting injured. So I think over the course of my recovery, I've really been thinking about it. And it was just something that I talked with my family about. And we all thought it was a great decision for me to come back.
The 31-year-old suffered a right knee injury in January, but says he's healed up and ready to come back stronger than ever. Riley's back in now. Riley, I love that you put the cold weather into perspective because not everybody dislikes it. And it does bring those outdoor rinks, and the snow brings, lots of activity for other people who want to maybe snowshoe and ski and all of that. So it is a good reminder.
It's all subjective,
There
right?
is good to come as well.
Exactly, especially for winter sports and outdoor enthusiasts. Maybe a bit cold for the pups.
Yes.
And maybe for your morning walks too. But I hope you like what I've done to the dog walking forecast because we've decorated because we're coming into the holiday season here. So how about some festive picks for you? Leo, Chewy, and Maggie. Thank you, Carolina. What a gorgeous picture this is. Keep sending your festive pup pics to me at talkback@cbc.ca. I got many of them last night, which I really enjoyed looking at after the show. So -19 first thing in the morning for Winnipeg. As we get through the day, though, temperatures will be steadily falling throughout the day, along with a bit of a gusty northwest wind out there. So any snow that falls as we get through the night tonight, as we get through tomorrow, likely to be picked up and tossed around, particularly on some of those open highways. So keep that in mind if you're out on the roads first thing in the morning or really at any point through the day tomorrow. That visibility could be a concern along with some blowing or drifting snow. Okay. Wanted to talk about the shortening of our days here because sun is now setting closer to 4:30 here in Winnipeg, but other parts of the province are seeing much shorter days than that as well. We're going to give you a bit of a perspective on that here. So 4:27, that was our sunset today in Winnipeg, 8 hours, 10 minutes of daylight. In Churchill, 6 hours, 22 minutes of daylight with a sunset at 3:21 in the afternoon. And you can kind of see as the horizon kind of shifts here and we get into some brighter parts of the map here. Our sunrise around 8 o'clock in the morning for most, but waits until about 9 for some parts of northwestern Manitoba. However, the Arctic Circle on some points just south of, in the dark until February the 4th in 24-hour darkness in some parts of the country right now. And Resolute Bay, for example, the first day they'll see the sun, February the 4th, for a 48-minute day, the sun setting, rising and setting, in fact, during the noon hour. So just a little bit of science for you there. General 2 to 4 centimeters across the south tonight. As that cold front sweeps through, temperatures dropping to the -25, 26 range into Westman. Roblin -28, looking at wind chill values close to -30 or -35 through the overnight hours. Maybe a few flurries into northern Manitoba. And temperatures hovering around -20 tomorrow. Frostbite on exposed skin in northern Manitoba tomorrow in 20 to 30 minutes or so, with temperatures really not leaving -20 or so through the day. In the west, looking at that frostbite in about 10 to 15 minutes on exposed skin, wind chill values hanging around -40 or so throughout the day. And really anywhere east of Portage la Prairie, Brittany, we're looking at temperatures falling throughout the day. By the time we get to the afternoon, temperatures at around -21 degrees.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
So what do you do when you're not a hockey powerhouse, but you're hosting a Winter Olympics? Well, you pack your bags and head to the country where the sport reigns supreme. The CBC's Sarah Levitt went to Montreal to watch some Italian athletes.
We're just 2 months away from the Winter Olympics in Milan, and I'm here at the Verdun Auditorium to see the national women's hockey team play. Not Canada. Yes, I'm talking about the Italian women's national hockey team here in Montreal for a month-long intensive training camp. As the host country, the Italian players wanted to be sure they'd be ready to take on powerhouses like Canada and the United States.
Training in such an environment in Canada, the motherland of hockey, so it's been great.
But why specifically Montreal? The team's general manager is none other than Hockey Hall of Famer Danielle Sauvageau, the woman behind the bench for Canada's first hockey gold in 50 years at the Salt Lake City Olympics in 2002. But that's not the only Quebec connection.
The way it's going to work.
Coaching the team is Éric Bouchard, assistant coach of the Shawinigan Cataract in the Quebec Maritimes Junior Hockey League.
Having a chance to work with elite hockey players like that, having a chance to build something special with the team,
really resonated with me.
The last time the Italian women's team played in the Olympics was in 2006, again as hosts in Torino. For these players, the chance to play at home is exciting, but also nerve-wracking.
No one expects us to reach the levels that the Olympics have, but we are very confident that we're going to shock the hockey world.
The Italians have a veteran amongst them. Laura Fortino was on the Canadian Olympic team that won gold in Sochi and silver in Pyeongchang. As an Italian-Canadian dual citizen, she can now play for Italy.
Experiencing this journey is very special to me. You know, this is representing my family and my roots.
These women are giving it all they've got and say they can't wait to hear Forza Italia yelled proudly from the stands in Milan. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
A historic Nova Scotia garden gets a smelly surprise. The details next.
All right, welcome back. Let's have a look at your 7-day forecast now, and you may have caught a glimpse of a very warm temperature by the time we get to next Tuesday. There's A lot of time between now and then, but looking at temperature falling in the afternoon in Winnipeg to -21. Watch for windy conditions and frostbite on exposed skin in less than 30 minutes or so in the Red River Valley, but 10 to 20 minutes into parts of western Manitoba. We get a bit brighter skies into the weekend, -15 for Sunday, Monday. Then yes, a big warm-up coming as we get into a bit of a new air mass as we get into Tuesday with increasing clouds. And then I'm watching another system that will likely bring us some snow to the province as we get into the Wednesday, Thursday timeframe into next week, and then temperatures falling once again by next Thursday. Well, for 40 years, staff at a historic garden in Nova Scotia thought they knew their ginkgo tree. Every fall it produces a carpet of lush, colorful fall leaves.
But they recently got a very smelly surprise. The CBC's Josh Hoffman explains it all in our Daily Lift.
Oh, whew. Yep, that is rancid.
Staff at the Annapolis Royal Historic Gardens were surprised to learn recently that a tree they planted in the 1980s is not what they thought. It's not a male ginkgo tree, but a female one, which produces small fruit-like seeds. And when the seeds are crushed,
it has a just really obnoxious smell, something like dog poo or rancid butter, or even compared to vomit. It's just, I guess, pretty brutal.
Typically, only male ginkgo trees are sold commercially because the female ones produce the smelly seeds. So park manager Trish Fry and her staff admit they were a bit dismissive when a visitor this summer said they noticed the berry-shaped fruits on the tree.
And we said, yeah, no, it doesn't, because it's a male and we've never had fruit on the tree.
And that's the thing about ginkgos. You won't know what you've planted until it fully matures after a few decades.
We love it anyway, but it's not what we expected.
Fry says there are no plans to remove the female ginkgo tree from the historic gardens. Luckily, she says the smelly seeds don't fall until after the peak tourism season. She says they may tell future visitors to bring a nose plug just in case. Josh Hoffman, CBC News, Annapolis Royal.
Maybe it'll bring tourists. Maybe people will want to travel just to see that.
Just like the corpse flowers.
Right?
But the leaves are very pretty.
There we go.
That is a very pretty tree.
That's one way. Look on the bright side. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Have a good one.